Suppose you wake up one morning and feel strange. Was I drunk yesterday? No, I wasn't. You look around. The bedroom is different. This isn't your bedroom. A blonde woman is sleeping in bed. It's good news, but it's strange. You're single. There's a mirror near the bed. You look at yourself. The face that is reflected is quite well known. For some strange reason, you became Hitler. There's a newspaper on a table. You read the date, January 1st, 1942. We're in the midst of the Second World War. You quickly realize you're in a bad situation, since you know how Hitler will end up in 3 years. What can you do to get out of this alive? You get dressed and leave the room without even waking that blonde in your bed. What's her name? Oh yeah, Eva Braun. You go down some stairs. There's a waitress. You ask her where we are. It turns out you speak German and even understand it. A little surprised, she replies that you're at the military headquarters Wolfschanze, the Wolf's Lair, near Rastenburg, in East Prussia. You make breakfast, then in the late morning there is the daily situation conferences with senior officers, Jodl, Keidel, Halder, and Schmund. They update you on the situation on the battlefield, which is complicated. You conquered half Europe. Italy and other European countries are allied. But in the east, the Soviet winter counteroffensive has pushed the German army back 100 kilometers from Moscow. Operation Barbarossa has failed. In Libya, things went badly in Tobruk, but the front has stabilized around Benghazi. Where is Benghazi? Okay, thank you. You also declared war on the United States a month ago, and maybe it would have been better if you hadn't. The Japanese, however, are doing great. They just took over the Philippines, Malaysia, and are invading Indonesia and Burma. Your first idea is to instruct Bormann to ask the Allies and the Soviets for peace terms. Bormann will find the request rather strange, but you assure him that it is simply a strategy, since I am confident that the new year will bring final victory, despite some minor military setbacks. After a few days, you learn that the Allies are demanding unconditional surrender. Nuremberg quickly comes to mind, and since you don't know any good lawyers in Berlin, the outcome of the trial is pretty certain. It will not end well. Shortly afterward comes Stalin's response. He doesn't even intend to hold a trial and wants to shoot you as soon as he gets his hands on you. So maybe it's best to move on to Plan B. To save your life, you must win World War II. What would you do to win the Second World War? Unfortunately, you don't have artificial intelligence to ask how to win the Second World War. But you remember something. You were a good student in school. Then you watched a great YouTube video called How Germany Could Win World War II. Meanwhile, everyone keeps asking you strange questions about troop movements, armored divisions, and encirclements, things you know nothing about. You've never even played Call of Duty. Why don't you ask someone else? Mein Führer, recently you taken personal command of the Heer, dismissing Field Marshal von Brauchitsch. You give the order to put someone else in command of operations in the East. You have a lot of good generals. Rundstedt, von Lieb, Bock, Paulus. You choose. I have no preferences. This decision will significantly improve the situation on the Russian front, as your generals have more knowledge of the battlefield and have more experience and skills than you. Obviously, you want to save as many lives as possible. Your first thought will go to the Jews. You will give orders that will gradually lead to the end of the persecution of the Jews and the closure of the concentration camps. You staff will not like your decision, but you could say, for example, that there is a war and we have no resources to waste, and that all those guards could be more useful at the front. After that, you will order better treatment for Polish and Russian prisoners of war and civilians. Of course, the SS leaders will be wide-eyed, but you simply order them to obey. Come on, guys, I don't have to explain the reasons for everything I do. This measure, however, could have a positive effect on the battlefield. Stalin was not loved by all Russians, especially in southern Russia. There will be more Red Army soldiers surrendering, fewer partisans, and more cooperation from civilians. Then you remember the Enigma affair. You remember that the Allies cracked the code to encrypt German transmissions and even know what your soldiers eat for breakfast. You will give the order to change the code. This measure will have bigger consequences than you think. Now the Allies will no longer know the hour and minute of departure of every air raid on Great Britain, nor the movements of the entire Italian fleet and the U-boats in the Atlantic. The deciphering of Enigma was perhaps one of the greatest advantages for the Allies. Some historians estimate that the deciphering of Enigma shortened the duration of the war by 2 years. You also warn your Japanese allies that the Americans have cracked the Japanese code. Eva Braun, your woman. Eva will have many ways to notice that something has changed. You might lead her to believe that the change is due to stress, which is understandable. Having to fight against 3/4 of the planet can cause some anxiety. A candlelit dinner at Berlin's finest restaurant will make her forget any of your weirdness. I imagine you're more romantic than Hitler, so perhaps certain changes might even please her. You may also be tempted to leave Eva and take advantage of your position. You know you have a lot of young blonde fans who would do anything to please you. But the Nazi Party leadership doesn't appreciate Latin lovers. Remember, you're in a rather delicate position, so you decide to continue the relationship with Eva, a beautiful woman anyway. You have the advantage of knowing how the technology will develop. You order to abandon useless projects such as the America bomber, flying saucers, 100-ton tanks, time machines. The U-boat program, which in any case will not be decisive, is halved. The V2 project is also canceled. In practice, it served little purpose, if anything. Instead, you ordered to accelerate the development of radar and jet aircraft, but above all, of the atomic bomb. The resources available after eliminating unnecessary programs are enormous. The V2 project alone cost a sum similar to that of the Manhattan Project. The first results will be visible soon. The first Messerschmitt Me-262 fly on July 18, 1942. It is faster and more heavily armed than any Allied aircraft. Germany will be more protected. In your timeline, the progresses of this jet aircraft were delayed because of interference from Göring and Hitler that demanded that the Me-262, conceived as a defensive interceptor, be redesigned as ground attack/bomber aircraft. In this case, you tell him no, it's fine as an interceptor, just hurry up. In April 1942, you give the order to lift the siege of Leningrad. Why, mein Führer? The reason is that you don't want hundreds of thousands of Russian civilians to starve to death in a useless battle. But you could invent logistical and strategical reasons, use your fantasy. The need of troops for a future landing on Britain is fine. Everybody will approve your decision. Come on, hurry up, get out of there and form a defensive line in Estonia. On April 29, 1942, you meet Benito Mussolini at Salzburg. Mussolini finds you much more sympathetic than the last time he saw you. Listen to me, Benito. Don't send that Italian contingent to Russia. Let's take Malta instead, okay? Even if it means sacrificing half the fleet, which is useless without fuel anyway. Then, to supply the troops in Africa, we'll use the port of Tunis. It will be much easier. I know Tunis is French, but I'll ask Pétain. We're friends. One last thing. Badoglio. Put him in jail. Yes, this evening. Trust me, you won't regret it. Meanwhile, the Japanese are continuing to advance in the Pacific. They also took Thailand and Singapore and sank some American ships in the Battle of the Coral. After changing the code, they won at Midway. It's not a decisive battle, but it's better than losing. Guys, a piece of advice: stay away from Guadalcanal. It's just a small island in the middle of the sea, after all. Thanks to better management of the war and greater proximity to logistics centers, on the Eastern Front the situation stabilized. The Soviets are advancing very slowly. Stalin continues to ask the Allies to open another front, but they continually postpone it. Stalin is starting to get a little nervous. In the summer of 1942, he orders the cancellation of the attack on Stalingrad. We will never get to the Caucasus. Be serious. Once you take Donbass and Kharkiv, everything else is useless. Stay on the Donets instead. And please remember, do not harm the civilian population. How dare you question my orders? Do you want to be sent to a concentration camp? Are you saying we close them all? I'll reopen one especially for you. And you, Rommel, what are you going to do in Alexandria? Stand still and wait for the English to attack if they really want to. Stay away from El Alamein. I know you're doing great, but do what I say. Yes, it is an order. Anyway, after the fall of Malta, things goes a little better. More supplies, more men. November 8th, 1942, Americans and British land in Morocco, Operation Torch. Damn, I forgot about that. I have to mark this date, so if it happens again, I'm not caught off guard. There wouldn't be any way to stop the landing anyway. Let's start leaving Africa, okay? Africa is lost, even if it was never of much use in the past. Let's try to conserve our strength as much as possible. Losing 100,000 men for nothing is useless. Retire to Sicily. I'll explain why later. In early 1943, the Japanese begin to lose ground, but in Russia, the Red Army is unable to break through a Wehrmacht that is better organized and closer to its logistical bases. In June 1943, you talk to your generals. Listen to me. That pincer maneuver you're trying to pull at Kursk is utter madness, believe me. Use all those panzers differently, okay? Then tell them that there will be a landing in Sicily in July 1943. Yes, exact in July 1943. And no, it won't happen in Sardinia, Greece, or who knows where. Deploy as many forces as possible into Sicily. When the landing takes place in Sicily in July 1943, as you predicted, your generals will be amazed by the brilliant intuitions of their Führer. The Allied landing is repelled. Stalin is increasingly angry with the Allies. He has always found the idea of a landing in Sicily stupid. To please Stalin, the Allies will land on Greece, one of the backup plans to the Sicilian landing. There's little that can be done here, but one can live without Greece. You have some free time and take Eva to the opera to see the Ride of the Valkyries. It's boring, but still better than a Saturday afternoon at IKEA. Valkyrie, it reminds you of something. Operation Valkyrie, the attempt to assassinate you by some of your generals. Unfortunately, you don't remember the date, nor who the conspirators were. You don't have Wikipedia, and it wouldn't help anyway because it has yet to happen. But you remember that Rommel was involved. You summon Rommel and tell him, "My boy, I know you don't like me, but you can't kill everyone you don't like, can you? Don't do anything stupid, okay? From now on, however, you always look under the table to make sure there are no strange suitcases. Meanwhile, you continue to beg Stalin for peace in a way that some of your generals find embarrassing. November 28, 1943, Tehran Conference between Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin. Stalin again asked the Allies to land in Europe. He no longer has any desire to continue losing men in brutal fighting while they sit quietly on their island in the middle of the ocean. The Allies begin organizing the landing in Europe, but you know that the landings will take place in Normandy on June 6, 1944. Certainly, many conditions in this scenario are different, but there were specific strategic, logistical, and meteorological reasons for choosing that date and those beaches, so I doubt that something will change. You order to keep troops away from the beaches to avoid bombardment until June 5th. Then, in the night, you move the troops to the beaches where the landing will take place. The landing is a catastrophe for the Allies, 100 times worse than Dieppe. Many soldiers are captured and most of the equipment is lost. Stalin is now convinced that his allies are incompetent and agrees to conduct separate peace negotiations. Even in our timeline, there were negotiations for a separate peace between Hitler and Stalin. In this situation, it's very likely they would have succeeded. Furthermore, you're willing to retreat to the pre-war border and retire your troops from the Balkans. Poland? Okay, take a part, but Poland must be free. All right? Friends like before? Come on, don't sulk. The war in the East is over. The Allies will continue the war alone. They advance into Greece, but soon discover that the Soviets frown upon their advances into Balkans. There could be a landing in Sardinia, then in Corsica, and finally in southern France. This was one of the Allied plans. But after the disaster in Normandy, they will be cautious with the landings. Perhaps they will try to land in Italy from Albania. But the Italian army is not in disarray, as in our chronology, and it took another 2 years of furious fighting to reach the Alps. In the Pacific, the war continues. In January 1945, the U.S. Navy recaptured the Mariana Islands. In February, the Philippines. Then comes the Battle of Iwo Jima. In April 1945, the Battle of Okinawa began. July 16, 1945. The Trinity test, the first explosion of an atomic bomb, takes place in the New Mexico desert. But Germany, thanks to your advice, also has a ready atomic bomb. On August 1st, 1945, you detonate your atomic bomb in the English Channel off the coast of England so that the British could clearly see the spectacular explosion. Later, you send a telegram to the Queen, warning her that the next one will be over the English Parliament. Goring could ask, why didn't we drop that bomb on London? Are you crazy? Tens of thousands of poor English people would die. Wait. Yes, of course I'm kidding. Because this way the English will believe that we have so many nukes that we can throw some away. And they won't know that we can only build one atomic bomb, and that the next one will probably be in 1950. Anyway, dear Herman, how can you drop a 4-ton bomb on London? We haven't even been able to send a reconnaissance plane over England since 1944. You give a speech to the Reichstag. Dear Allied, what should we do? Destroy each other or make a peace? Don't lie, I know you only have a couple of nukes. You will also offer them good peace terms. I withdraw from Norway, the Netherlands, France, Denmark, and Belgium. Oh yes, even from Luxembourg, I forgot. How distracted I am. However, everyone forgets about Luxembourg. It's so tiny. After the war, there will be free elections, ending the dictatorship. The peace terms will be accepted by the Allies. The Americans might not like them at first, but the British will insist on their approval, especially since Churchill, living in London, might be a little worried after seeing that explosion. On the day of the signing of the peace treaty in Yalta, there are Stalin, Truman, Hitler, Mussolini, Churchill, Hirohito. That day, it's a celebration in Germany. The war is over. We've reconquered the territories lost in the First World War, and our boys are coming home. At night, you enter the bedroom. You need to rest. Tomorrow will be the day of triumph, of your triumph. There will be a big victory parade in front of a delirious crowd for their leader who led Germany in the most important victory in history. You wake up early, but you feel a little strange. You look around. Eva isn't in your bed. You call her name, but your voice isn't in German. The room is different. What's happening? You go to the bathroom and look at yourself in the mirror. You're yourself again.